Hello, guys, and welcome to a very special episode of the Middle Ages Comic Hour. If you're joining us for the first time, I'm J.A. Bryden. Ryan's with me also. We have an awesome guest we're about to bring in, but before we bring him in, just letting you guys know that this podcast is kind of like a 3-episode. We have lots of things we do on this podcast, so check out our other episodes: Story, the True and the Fictional, Story Chat, and yeah, we got something for everyone. But right now, we're going to interrupt our Last Ronin run-through and talk to someone who's very familiar with The Last Ronin, Jamie Johnson. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers, guys.
Look, I know who you are because I met you. Ryan knows who you are. And but for those that may not know who you are, who's Jamie Johnson?
He's a fanboy at heart. I'm just a kid that loved to draw and end up parlaying that into a career in doing comic covers and freelance, I guess is what you'd call it. But yeah, most recently worked on a cover for The Last Ronin Lost Years and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for RDW, which was kind of fun, among other things. But I think like 5-year-old me, like would just be doing like cartwheels knowing that we were able to, get on a published Turtles cover. It was pretty mental. So yeah.
Yeah. I suppose if you had a time machine, you'd probably go, like, would you like to go back and visit your younger self and tell you what was going to happen? And
well, it's really funny. I've been going down this this nostalgic kind of rabbit hole. I had another YouTube channel do a quick, little segment on me in my studio, and it was kind of talking about the history of me and the Turtles, because I think you're this. Are you 84 baby as well?
I'm an 84 baby. Yep.
Yeah. So we were born the same year as the Turtles. So when everything hit, we were just at the right age. So I didn't really see the gritty stuff until later. But
yeah,
when the 87 cartoon hit, I think it was more like 88, 89 in Australia. Like we were like 4 and 5, and then the movie came out when we were like 5 or 6, and then so just Turtle Mania was just like searing through. So I actually found all these old photos of me, in like face paint. I found my old I was sick in bed or something, like homesick, as kids do. And on my bed is like the turtle, sewer, like the lair.
Yeah.
And I'm actually looking at the same one that I had from when I was a kid right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's not displayed prominently. I'm still trying to piece it together. There's a few little knickknacks. It's about 99% complete, but like I remember opening. I remember the smell of that, the plastic in the box, and so it's just really cool. And obviously with the new movie coming out, there's just been a real resurgence and a lot of like crossovers and Last Ronin. So it's really like a renaissance for the Turtles fans,
Yeah, 100%. Now, you and I have a lot in common. Not just the same first name and all that stuff and all that stuff. But like, so when the first movie came out, the 1991, were you allowed to see it? Did your parents let you see it at the cinema?
I went with my parents. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, my parents wouldn't like. They're going, no, I've heard bad things. Or, I had to wait for the DVD release.
So the VHS, don't you mean?
Yes, the VHS, 100% VHS. And then I was allowed to see the second one at the cinema, and that was magic.
Well, that was definitely more geared towards kids anyway.
Yeah.
So my father actually passed away in 92, so he got to see the second movie, and that was like the last movie we saw together in the cinemas before he passed. So he was actually wearing a turtle shirt when he passed away. He was cremated wearing it. So it's super dark, but if you think about it, at that age, you only remember, I'd say maybe like vividly from maybe age 4 and up. So I had about 3 really good years with my dad, and Turtles was our thing. So being a guest at like the Supernova shows that Kevin Eastman was a guest at, and being able to share that kind of, with him, it kind of just hits a little different. He definitely seemed very touched by that aspect of it, because I'm sure in 40 years he's heard every story of every, like, the Turtles is the reason I do karate, and I love pizza because of them, and all that sort of stuff. But it was the fact that I only had such a small amount of time with him, and what I remember he kind of gave to me, it was kind of a gift, and we'd only met in like 2020 for the first time, so it was nice to be able to share that with him.
It was super nice. Like, I could tell a lot of people at Supernova were getting annoyed about how long the line was taking. And I probably only got to see him because I had a cowabunga pass. but then you get there and you're just like, he is so genuine. He wants to know everything about you, and he really takes your time with you, and that's why he's such a cool dude, I think.
Well, I think that the reason it took so long, obviously the lines were what they were, but when you get there and you're like, oh, if they were going, oh man, I've been waiting 2 hours in this line, but you get there and he'll take that time with you. It's not like next, you go to an American show and it's like sign 3 things, see you later. Whereas he'll like find that thing, you know what I mean? He'll connect with you on something. I know with you were able to gift him your book and he wanted you to sign it. And the same with my sketchbook. Like I gave him one of my Turtles sketchbooks just as like a thing, I'm sure he gets a million of them, and he goes, oh, can you sign that for me? I'm like, sure. Like he goes, I still got your last one. I gave him one in 2020. And I was like, the fact he even remembers, it's just he should, by every right, he should have an ego the size of this planet, but he's the nicest, most down-to-earth guy. He created a cultural phenomenon with Laird, and he should be, I've met some creators that have an ego that they don't have any right to have,
Yeah. Like those influencers, like Instagram influencers or whatever, and they got like 1,000 followers, and they're like, I'm so good, look at me,
Yeah, it's this inflated sense of self, whereas I think he really enjoys. Because at one stage he sold his rights off and he was kind of done with it.
Yeah.
And then when he came back to it, the genuine love and interest that people have in not just what he created, but even just his work, his art, he was able to also, like, for me, doing Turtles was a fanboy thing for me. For him, it was a love letter to things like Frank Miller and like Jack Kirby. And, Daredevil, as you probably know, was a big, reason for the inception, instead of the hand, it's the foot, instead of, stick, it's Splinter, etc. The ooze is the same ooze that blinded Matt Murdock. So the fact that he was able to do, like, I think 2020 was the first time he did it, like Daredevil covers and stuff for Marvel and X-Men. And so it's really cool that he's able to still attain like that kind of, fanboy that we're able to do as well. Because you think being at the top of the mountain, there's nothing else to achieve,
Yeah. Well, it looks like Ryan wants to talk, or he's relaxed.
Sorry.
No, I'm just listening. I'm listening.
We're just having a Jamie bro off. Sorry, Ryan.
That's cool.
It's funny. Cool. This is payback for the episode. Ryan's a huge wrestling fan, and we had this guy on that was like a amateur wrestler, or he's getting into wrestling. And it was literally him talking to this dude for 40 minutes while I'm sitting there. Because I know nothing about wrestling. No. But look, before we dive into too much further, we have this thing we like to do with all our guests. We have icebreaker questions. Now, these are different than our other icebreaker questions. It's because look, we've got a comic book artist. We've got a fellow Turtle fan. We figured we'd have some questions catered to specifically for this. So, Ryan... Have you decided which ones you want to do?
It was my first time reading the questions about 5 minutes ago. So, as usual, I do all my preparation on air. So, no, I'll take it. I'll start with number one. Jamie Johnson, not Jamie Bryden. If you could visit any comic book world, which one would it be?
Okay. See, if I was a kid, I would have said Gotham, but that's a terrible idea because it's so overrun with crime.
Especially if you're a kid, you probably get put into like child labor or something.
Yeah. I probably have to be saved by Batman. Look, I mean, Marvel is probably a pretty diverse. One day it's X-Men, and there's the Avengers, and there's a whole plethora and a huge mythos there. So I'll say the Marvel universe, if that's not cheating. I'd say Turtles, but that's just kind of New York, you know what I mean? So I can really hop on a plane and kind of be there. But
true.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Awesome. Well, all right. I'll follow that question up with what comic book would you like to see adapted to film?
All right. So it's kind of a two-way tie. One's a little bit older and one is newer. Newer is very obviously The Last Ronin. Because I think cinematically it's got the kind of elements of like Dark Knight Returns meets Blade Runner. It's got those kind of vibes to it, which I think aesthetically would work really well. I think you'd have to get someone to really get the script right, because you get someone like Zack Snyder, who is amazing visually, but always seems to fall short on the story or the script. Batman vs Superman was like the biggest hype of my life, and then I walked out like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, hey, don't get me wrong. I'm going to swivel you for a sec. Like, I love Batfleck. Don't get me wrong. I've got like a life-size Batfleck up there. I think aesthetically, that would be the guy to do it. But look, I think Batman Hush would probably be my all-time favorite, because if I swivel you again, I've got his original art from issue 608 up there as well. So Jim Lee's a big reason that I kind of got into comics. So I'd say Batman Hush is kind of something I'd love to see done with reverence. They did an animated series,
they did,
of it, and they just trashed it. They changed it.
They changed the whole thing.
And look, they took out the main heart of it. The whole element of him and Tommy Elliott. It's kind of this yin and yang, and from childhood, and they kind of really just bastardized that. So I'd love to see it. You know, like the way that Affleck's film was kind of shaping up when they were talking about it. He's an Academy Award-winning filmmaker. Aesthetically, in Batman vs Superman, not the other movies, I think his Bruce Wayne and his Batman in that is the intensity we needed for something like Hush. But yeah, I'm very sad to say I don't think we'll ever really get something like that. But Hush would be something I'd love, because it has just his whole, like, you know, rogues gallery, and it really can flex different muscles in that cinematically. So yeah.
Well, I think that's probably why we wouldn't get it. You wouldn't get it. I mean, it's one of my favorite arcs. I was really looking forward to the animated, because DC very rarely drop the ball when it comes to the animated stuff, and they pretty much just changed the whole story. But I would absolutely love to see it live action. But you're right, it's got pretty much everyone in it. All of the rogues gallery, and I think that is probably what's holding it back, because they're like, well, we're going to have Joker, we're going to have Riddler, we're going to have Killer Croc, we're going to have Poison Ivy. Like, they're just too much.
But if you think about it,
if
you think about it, it's got like the Matt Reeves Batman had the elements of it. Like there was, it had like certain vibes of like Court of Owls with a bit of Hush.
Yes.
And like the whole idea of Hush is he's the boogeyman in the shadows, and that's kind of what we got with that Riddler. And I think if they were able to do that and split it into 3 films, do the first, 4, and 4, because it was 12 issue arc.
Yeah,
I think you'd actually get a nice, and obviously you'd have to change it up a little bit. Like, it's pretty anticlimactic. It leaves it very open at the end.
Yeah, it does,
But I think that would be the way to do it. But I mean, look, when I say Hush, I've got every iteration. I've got the retailer variant, every single floppy and hardcover. I've got the unwrapped and the inked and absolute everything. I've got original sketches from Jim Lee as well as the original page, and so like Hush was just like something I lived and breathed, and just really got me excited to draw again, and would love to see that on the big screen. But I think that's just a fantasy, unfortunately.
Well, I think Jim Lee, I definitely agree with you on Jim Lee. I have a 2020 Comic-Con Batman figure, sketch figure. So it's actually a blank figure sketched by Jim Lee. You probably got the same one. You're about to get it.
He's just a bit...
Yeah, that's it. I've got that too. Yeah.
Hold on. But I even went a step further, and I did one with Hush.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's awesome. that's honestly one of my prized possession, because I got that for Christmas a long time ago, and it's I just love the way Jim Lee is one of my favorite artists of all time as well. Him and Todd McFarlane are just my two favorite, I would have to say.
Are you an 80s baby too?
Yeah, 82. So yeah.
Yeah. So like when the Image boom hit.
Yes.
And those
yes.
dude.
Like Rob Liefeld, and
Silvestri, all those guys.
I like to call it the era of the big chest, because like when you look at like Rob Liefeld, women, the Captain, that famous Captain America comic that he did the cover of, where Captain America's got bigger boobs than any woman that I've ever seen in my entire life. But
you know that's actually a light box of Arnold Schwarzenegger, right?
Oh, really? Okay, I did not know that.
It's an actual pose, but he was actually doing this, so it was unnatural.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. But I grew up.
Anatomically looks weird as hell, but it's actually based off an actual image. Yeah.
It does, but that was also, it was an era where it just made sense. You know what I mean? Like the fact when Jim Lee's art, I've actually got my wife Jim Lee did a variant cover of I think it was the Batman wedding issue where he married Catwoman, and the rain's coming down, and they're just that was my wife's favorite cover, and I actually tracked down a black and white cover of that for her, and that's all awesome. Framed up. He's just so amazing, and he's still got it now. Like he's been doing it for years.
So I'm gonna just geek out with two things. Number one, to the left of me where I panned you before, I've got every single issue. I'm talking variant. And remember the 90s, they had foil variants and newsstand and whatever. So I've got every variant from 1986, from his first one in Samurai Santa, all the way till about 2019. I stopped doing everyone, and then from there, so I have all of those issues. I have every like 1 in 100. I have the retailer variants. I have all the and I'm telling you, I hate to think about how much I've spent over the years. But it'd be nice to think what they're worth now.
Well, that's it. It sounds like sometimes you bought a variant instead of eating for the week. But yeah, I get that.
I never. No. I never. I would only do it. I was very strategic. I always had it on my watch list, and then I'd go, and then I'd kind of do snipe bids. So I got this retailer variant for Hush, which is like it's called the RRP. And it's a 9.4 CGC, and on the census right now, this one's going between $6,000 and $8,000 US. I paid at the time 500 Australian dollars, and so it was just like a weird, lucky. They finished the auction when it was like daytime our time. It was obviously like 3 a.m. their time, so it just was very fortuitous. And that was a good one. I'll tell you. On the flip side, that's where I got lucky. So that Batman variant you're talking about, the black and white with the sketch on it, he did 50. He did 50 Batman, 50 Harley Quinn, and 50 Joker sketches, right? And then they released them out into the wild. I was at that San Diego Comic-Con. I had an original Batman in my hand, and they were meant to be going for $200, and retailers were getting greedy, and it was going for $500 at the time. I go, oh my god, rip off, and I gave it back to him. Right now. Right now, they're going for about $3,000 US.
Yeah. Oh wow.
So I'm never going to have another one, but I had it in my hand, and I know the collector who has it too, because I run a Jim Lee group on Facebook. It's very funny.
Oh no. But look, at least it's not like that was the one holy grail. You know what I mean? Like you've clearly got, even just from looking from what you've shown us, I would kill for any of those pieces. You know, it's absolutely amazing.
Where are you guys based? So, Jamie, you're in Sydney, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm Sydney too.
I'm technically Blue Mountains, but
you're in the mountains. And where are you, Ryan?
I'm in Western Sydney.
Right, come on over. I'm in Rouse Hill, man.
Oh, you're just around the corner. Oh, there you go.
Definitely, we'll say something up.
I'll have you around, and I'll show you. Literally, if you're a Jim Lee guy, I have We'll stop talking about Jim Lee because this is not a Jim Lee podcast. But I will show you. And Jamie, anytime you want to come over, I'll show you all my Ninja Turtle stuff and the original art and all that stuff too. So you guys are more than welcome.
Nice. Oh, cheers. Oh, there you go. Yeah, well, you're literally probably about 15 minutes from where I am. I'm in Blacktown. So there you go.
Perfect, mate. Right down the road. Same council.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. I hijacked that.
No, that's cool. This is what we do. We have like a 45-minute podcast plan that goes for 2 hours. That's fine. That's what we do.
Yeah,
I'm just going to add an S to the end of the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Hours.
Part 1 and C.
Well, you did mention before, we were talking about, at the moment how there's a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle crossovers out there. Who would, obviously we said the Batman, there's a Stranger Things one at the moment. They've done a lot with the IDW characters, but who would you like to see as in the next crossover if you could pick anything?
Okay, if I could pick anything, because they've done Ghostbusters, they've done Batman, they're the things I kind of grew up on. The other thing I grew up on and kind of got me into drawing, and it probably would be super weird to cross over, but it's got the same vibe as Stranger Things. Do you guys remember Goosebumps?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I have every single Goosebumps book except one ever made. That's the entire Goosebumps collection.
Oh, wow.
So I would love to put them into some sort of Scooby-Doo-ish, sort of episodic, where it's like a one-off at Horrorland or something like that, or Monster Blood, or that's kind of oozy, isn't it?
Yeah, I could see that working.
Anyway,
There's lots of
the
different.
Masked Mutant, something like that, you know?
Yeah, something like that. Because there's a lot of different. I grew up on the Goosebumps as well. There's so many different options there. I mean, when you think about it, I know it's not classified as horror, but Ninja Turtles fits quite well into the horror genre because horror / sci-fi. You know what I mean? Like, I know, yes, the movies we were brought up on were obviously back in the 80s and 90s, and then we got that amazing animated one in 2007. I don't like to talk about the Michael Bay ones as Jamie does, but
I call them the Nostril Turtles.
Oh god!
So
yeah.
just to interject, do you know I won tickets to the premiere of the 2014 one?
Did you?
And so I got to meet Megan Fox and Will Arnett. No, she ain't. Yeah.
Oh, really?
She's really not that nice. Maybe she was having a bad day, but she was just like.
Oh, I've heard that. She's just nice to look at. I've heard she's not that
Will Arnett, on the other hand, he was great.
Oh my god!
I can imagine
him to do the Batman voice.
Yeah.
He got I got a fist bump from him.
Nice.
But no, I tried to like that movie, but
Look, I've got an appreciation for it later on. Like, I've watched it when, like, I don't know if you guys had the same thing as me. Like, we went into lockdown, and I was obviously, as an artist, I didn't change too much. Like, I'm always kind of in my studio, and Jamie, I'm sure you're the same when you're in your writing zone and stuff. So it didn't change too much. But obviously, you get a bit stir crazy, and you're watching all the, streaming services, and you basically feel like you've watched every movie that's ever been released.
Yeah.
So I went, all right, I'll go through my B tier, whatever. And then I rewatched the Bay movies, and I'm like, you know what? I think I might have been the right amount of bored to actually to be like, oh, I'm okay with this. There's certain things like I don't like the way they do Splinter, Shredder as well, but like the Turtles themselves actually grew on me a little bit.
Well, they nailed the personalities. I think my biggest problem is how big they were. Like like why do you need to learn how to be a ninja when you're throwing people through trains and you're bulletproof? It's just like
they're just like killing people with their shells.
Yeah. But like I said, nailed the voices, and that's something that I think they've always done really well.
I didn't realize until recently that Raph was what's his name? Alan Richmond.
From
Reacher.
Jack Reacher guy.
Like, dude, and apparently he didn't love doing it either. He was kind of obligated to do the second one, but I thought he was a great Raph.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah.
He definitely voice-wise, he was my favorite. Like, for me, Michelangelo was just a little bit too creepy, like a little bit too almost rapey towards April. I'm like, dude, I'm like, dude, you're like, I get it in a species stuff, but you're a turtle. Like, she's a girl. He was just a little bit too creepy, but Raph was spot on. I did like Leo. I can't remember who did it. Was that Johnny Knoxville or
in the first one, I believe? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm actually not well versed in that. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you, but that's
it was weird. So in the first film, Johnny Knoxville did the voice, but someone else did all the motion cap, and then in the second one, the guy who did the motion cap did the voice.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. Okay. If it's any consolation, I didn't notice. I kind of watched it back to back, and I didn't pick it up.
It's not like the 2012 series where you've got 3 seasons of Jason Biggs as Leonardo, and then hey, Seth Green. It's just like
pretty obvious.
Like how do you confuse a child?
The biggest adjustment for me watching the 2012, because I only actually visited it recently. I'm not even finished watching the 2012 yet. But going from having Rob Paulson as Raph in my head to him being Johnny, that was like
weird.
My brain just went like, "What's happening?" But then once it made perfect sense afterwards. But it's just very odd because he owned Raph, and the fact that because he was voice director, I believe, for that. Anyway, I digress again.
All right. After that tangent, let's get to the next question. Okay, so Baxter Stockman, yes, he's real. He invites you to his lab to witness the next mutation, and he lets you choose which animal he's going to mutate next. What do you pick?
Since we're going all through our childhood fandom, I'll pick a hedgehog and see how close we can get into Sonic.
Yes.
And I don't know if you guys watched that Chip and Dale the movie recently. I think it was like 20.
With Andy Samberg.
Yeah, and then like they've got Ugly Sonic at the and they keep closing up.
Yeah.
On his mouth.
Yeah, that was gold. Yeah.
Sorry, that was very
Uh,
creepy, but yeah.
Hey, still not as
It's
creepy
not
as
the
Mikey.
whiskey, I swear.
Oh, I haven't watched that. I might now making me kind of interested to check it
It's,
out.
it's
So
actually awesome. I think
It's
it's
really
Andy
good.
Samberg and what's his
I
name?
love Andy
John
Samberg.
Mulaney.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
have to check it
And
out.
it's done like old school. So
Okay.
yeah.
All
very,
right.
very.
Well, I guess I feel bad because Jamie. This is probably Jamie's question, but if you had to choose, Kevin Eastman or Peter Laird?
I don't know if either of you guys are parents. I'm personally not, but I was trying to
No.
pick your favorite kid, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at my shirt, it's an homage to Peter Laird, right?
Yeah.
That's like his first turtle, but it's like the last turtle.
Yeah.
But I've got a wall here of Kevin Eastman original sketches on the back of my variants.
Yeah.
So he's been very kind to me. I haven't actually met Peter in person, but he's been very complimentary of my inking online, which is a very
cool.
like a point of pride for me. But
It's okay.
I'll just say because I've spent time with him and we've had dinners and stuff, I'll say Kevin Eastman, but I'll leave it open.
Yeah.
I'll let Peter Laird wow me if I ever get to meet him.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is
Peter Laird, if you're listening, Peter Laird,
he's not. He doesn't like being on time.
No,
Hey,
what
about you?
Well, it is a bit of a trick question, but look, I tend to like because there was that era where Peter Laird was in charge, kind of like, and he was behind 2007 film kind of thing. I kind of preferred his style, but like, I mean, that doesn't mean I hate Kevin or anything like that. Yeah. I just feel I lean more towards Peter's kind of vision for it.
Yeah.
I
think vision-wise, like he was against doing like Venus, and he was against all these other things, which is what kind of caused the split.
Yeah.
To my understanding, I don't know the ins and outs, but like I grew up on like my godfather owned a chain of comic stores when I was little. You guys are from Western Sydney, Phantom Zone.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. That was my go-to. I was there like Parramatta store every pretty much fortnight with my money. Yes.
Yeah. So I used to basically see him. So he was my dad's best mate. So when my dad passed away, once a year he'd just say like for my birthday he'd go like, what are you kind of into at the moment? So I'd be like, one year it'd be X-Men, one year it'd be, and I get like the Jim Lee X-Men cards, and then it'd be like, you get like a box of these. As a kid, you know what that was like. You'd have to save all your pocket money. You couldn't get. I wouldn't be able to get all that stuff. But then I had like the Mirage posters, like the first graphic novels, like one sec.
This is the best interview ever.
I literally have everything from my childhood in my studio.
Yeah.
So like I literally had that poster on my wall. It was massive. I was 5, and that's like them in an alleyway with like swords drawn and all this stuff. And so I was very brought up on that blocky Kevin kind of gritty style. So I think I kind of leaned more that way. I do have an appreciation for Pete's stuff, and I loved it when they worked together, when one inked the other.
100%, yes, because they complemented each other, and I absolutely love that original comic.
Well, that's what this. If you ever get to pick this up, that's actually a reprint of the original. And I got commissioned recently to do a recreation of that page for
awesome.
So the guy got like Santa Luca, Buster Moody, like Kevin. He got like all these turtle artists to recreate a page from the original. He's recreating issue 1.
Wow.
Which is incredible. And then so I actually ended up taking that panel that I did and I turned it into, and it's going to be available on the Mindless Fashion website on my, like with the t-shirts and stuff. So I'm doing all these like gritty black and white stuff as well as the color stuff. So a bit of a love letter to those era, that era.
We'll get to it later, but let us know like your store and all that. We'll put all the links in the show notes, and everyone can buy your stuff.
Not up and running yet, but I'll plug my in, so it'll be all announced there.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, let's get down to what we're probably here to talk about, and that's you. Like, I mean,
avoiding.
No, how did it start? Like, have you always been drawing as long as you can remember?
Yep. So, funny enough, like I think most artists, like I actually teach illustration now, and I'm a self-taught artist, and I'm about this is my 12th year doing it professionally. So my first foray into comics, I think, was through Phantom Zone. Like, Glenn used to like, what are you into? He'd bring comics as well. So I'd really be reading the comics. My parents had, like, my dad had those little pocket graphic novels, like the Spider-Man and all that sort of stuff. So it was always peripherally there. My mum was into like all the Archie comics and Richie Rich and Hot Stuff and all that sort of stuff. And she actually got me into the Ninja Turtles too, which is really a cool side note. But I always kind of drew and recreated, and I'll plug the Insta later. I actually posted up an image of a Raph from the movie that I drew when I was 6 versus a Raph that I drew when I was 36. It's not much different. I guess I haven't improved that much, but
or you were a prodigy.
yeah. Well, I
exactly.
think maybe halfway. I've never really improved.
Yeah.
But I've always been drawing. I think it's a very solitary pursuit. Like, I was very guarded with it. I never really shared it with anyone. So even my godfather, who was he was a Phantom artist as well. Like, he was the first published Australian story for the Phantom.
Oh, wow.
It was called The Search for Byron. And I've got an original page for it here. I'm not going to grab it because I'm just going to grab stuff all night otherwise. But
that'll be part 2. We'll just go.
That'll be part 2, just me show and tell. And then I have this one, and then there's this, and I have this. No, so then he didn't even know that I really drew. So I'd always try and recreate stuff. So it all starts out with like peripherally the things that you like. So for me, it was like Jim Lee, X-Men. Later on, it was like the Goosebumps stuff. Obviously, Ninja Turtles, Batman. All those things that I kind of used to love and draw. And it wasn't like it was amazing, but I think at the young age, when kids were just drawing like little carrots for noses, I was drawing like nostrils and earlobes and just little details. And then it kind of built up from there. So when I think it was like 2010 or 2011, I started just it was like Facebook was still very early in the piece. And I just went like, I just uploaded, it wasn't even like scans. I just took photos of some art and put it up, and I was like, kind of, hey, this is some stuff I've drawn, like be gentle, you know what I mean? And I actually got work out of it. People going, can you design wine labels, and can you do like storyboarding? And the biggest secret about it, and people say fake it till you make it. When you're starting out, just say yes and figure it out. You know what I mean? If you close off that opportunity, it may not come around again. So at the beginning, I was taking on some crazy jobs where I was doing like storyboarding for like pitch work for, these huge production companies and like for ads. And it was like for Jack Daniels and V Energy Drink and like the Easter and all this sort of stuff. But it was like the turnaround was mental because they'd give it to you at like 5 p.m. on a Friday and they'd need 64 frames by Monday morning. And so I'm talking like cramping and maybe one bathroom break over the whole weekend, and I've maybe eaten, the equivalent of one meal because I'm just smashing through this stuff and not realizing this is where you learn on the job, not realizing that then they need correction. So you have to be available to keep going. so I very like, I kind of found my groove where I went, I probably won't be doing that crazy. They paid really well, but the stress on the body was just way too much. So when I kind of set my goals, because my godfather did the Phantom comics and he got me into that when I was younger, I just wanted to do one Phantom cover. That was just my only goal, was to do one Phantom cover. And I met with, he's now passed on, but his name was Jim Shepard. He was the editor of the publisher, for the Phantom for Fruit. And he gave me a shot. I brought in some stuff to show him. I didn't really have a real portfolio. He could just see that I could draw, but it wasn't great. Like, he basically was like, recreate this panel at this size and use a brush, and I'd never done that before. So I didn't have any kind of creative freedom, but it was my name on a Phantom cover, and I was very grateful for the opportunity. And as far as I was concerned, it was terrible. So as far as I was concerned, it was a one and done thing. But then the American publication, Hermes Press, were doing like a series of variant covers using Aussie artists for their run. So they were using like me and Glenn Lumsden and Glenn Ford and a couple of others. And I was very fortunate to be counted in that. And in a very full circle moment, that was my first international cover with my dad's best friend that he colored. So I did the inks, he colored it.
Oh, nice.
It came out on my dad's birthday, which is the day before mine. So it was a very nice full circle, first time I got to work with him in that capacity. He now runs Fruit Publication, so he's a co-owner of Fruit. He and another gentleman took it over, and they've taken some risks with some stuff, and they've created new stories. And I've got good friends that still write. I don't really work on the Phantom anymore, but I have friends that actively are doing stuff with it, which is really good to see that, because obviously it's a very old IP. It's actually outdates Superman and Batman. He's the first costume hero, and you need a younger audience. So it's nice to see they're really trying to attract that, because otherwise their fan base would just die off, and that would be it. So,
well, that's what I was telling Jamie in our last episode of the last Ronin review. Growing up around when we did, I used to go to the local paper shop to get my comics. So, they would have everything, obviously Phantom, but then they would have all the Marvel and DC. Nowadays, when you go to the paper shop, the only thing you see is Phantom. So you think it's gone from an age where everyone buys all your Spider-Man, your Batman, your Superman, and your Phantom from the paper shop, to Phantom really being the last one standing in newsagents, where you can physically go into a paper shop and buy a comic book. There's always the monthly or however frequent issue of the Phantom there.
So, so it's bi-monthly, so it's fortnightly, sorry. Yeah. So the interesting change is, it's obviously the direct market changed to the fact where you go to comic shops now, where that really ramped up in the 90s, and then it kind of petered off, and then now each capital city has their kind of main comic shops, and then there's a few little smaller tiered shops as well. But that's where you kind of have your standing orders and things like that. I think with the Phantom, it was always accessibility. Like, it was always a cheaper one on the newsstand. So if you had $1.50 or $3.50 or whatever it was, as opposed to the $8.50 or whatever it was to get a Marvel or a DC, it was in show bags. It was in the newspaper. So like, it was definitely available to everyone, and that's how a lot of the older generation were able to, and I think quite enjoyed it, because it was black and white pulpy paper. It had that old charm, but obviously that keeps the cost down, so it makes it more affordable to the end consumer.
So what was your thoughts on the Billy Zane movie?
Look, I'm very biased. We're the same age, dude. It came out at the right time. I loved it. That's literally when I started. So about a year before that, Glenn came to me. Normally he'll ask me, what are you into? X-Men, Batman, blah, blah, blah. He didn't even ask me. He just brought a stack of Phantom comics, and I was just hooked. Yeah. So I was a big Batman guy, and I think, like, he's obviously a super rich guy, peak physical perfection, no powers, fighting, evil and blah, blah, blah. It's very parallel in that regard. So it was very easy for me to kind of, jump onto that bandwagon.
I love that it's generational. It's like, they always think it's one dude who's been forever,
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. Yeah. Well, that's how Phantom is, because it's literally passed on from father to son. It's been around at least 4 generations now, where it's like, my dad used to read this to me when I was a kid, and this guy's like 80. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of nuts that my partner, she says it's really charming, where I'll go to the shows, and obviously Ninja Turtles is a big thing, but you'll always have like older gentlemen coming with their Phantom comics to get signed, and she thinks there's something really charming about that. And it's lovely. Like, I always have a great connection with the fan base, because they identify with that kind of heroic thing, so they're usually pretty nice people.
I must say, at Supernova, when I stopped by your stand, and I was just like, I got to get something, there was too many choices, so I just kind of panicked and went, that one.
You went big, bro.
I went
big.
Went
for the original. That cover itself. So I've got one behind me. It's hidden, if you can see where my thumb is.
Yep.
Kevin, I gave him a blank, and I just said, look, if you can do something, Ronan, and just let me know how much, and blah blah blah. Like, I didn't even care. He could just name his price, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, let me go away and I'll work on it like overnight, and I'll bring it back to you tomorrow. I'm like, oh, that'd be great. Thank you so much. We're in Perth, so it's kind of ramping down.
Yeah.
And he went around, he did it like a full, he goes, do you want inked? Or he goes, or do you want it in pencil and you can ink it? And I'm like, oh my God, like, pencil would be amazing. So he penciled this Ronin, really like detail. I'll rip this off the wall. It's just Velcro. Give me a sec. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but he's basically penciled this Last Ronin, and I basically, went to pull out my wallet and, say, thank you so much, how much? And he goes, no, it's an art trade. I go, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, you gave me one of your sketchbooks. And I go, yeah, like it's a printed sketchbook. No, I love your work. He goes, that's consider it a trade. So
what a dude. That's all you can say.
I was literally ready to pull out like $1,000. I didn't know how much it was going to be, but like the creator of Turtles drew a full-bodied, detailed Ronin and goes, here you go. I'm like, no, actually, none of those. I didn't pay for any of them. He wouldn't accept.
Oh, wow.
He's just a stand-up dude. Obviously, fellow creator, and I think he knows kind of what it's like in the trenches. And I always give him stuff, but it's more of a thank you, and it's never to get something in return. But he's just such a stand-up dude,
That's the pure definition of staying humble. You know what I mean? Like that's just 100%. Amazing.
For someone who like literally became a millionaire overnight in the 80s and 90s, owned a Batmobile and a tank, and is still that down to earth.
Yeah. I didn't know that he owned a tank.
Yeah, I think it might have been in the Turtle Power documentary. They kind of touched on it, but they used to have airsoft battles, and he used to just get in his tank and basically just like.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's decommissioned, obviously. Very cool still.
Oh man!
Yeah.
All right, random pop question.
Okay.
Favorite Turtle series?
Oh my god! Series?
We're talking 80s, 2003.
Bro, I actually can pretty much recite the 80s one like back to front, and it's just the nostalgic. It reminds me of my father still alive. It reminds me of getting those toys and just being so immersed. Kind of started me on my drawing journey, I guess. The amount of times I drew, they're so easy to draw, those turtles, so that kind of really got me started. So I'd definitely say that the 87. I do love so many of the other iterations, but we don't have any of that without the 87.
Oh yeah, 100%. I just love how much they like pumped out that series to the point where there was like mistakes and like subtle mistakes, and my favorite one is where obviously they couldn't get the guy to do Raphael's voice, so they got someone else to fill in, and he sounded nothing like Raphael at all.
They get the wrong turtle reading the wrong thing, or at the beginning where the din 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 din, and it was like meant to be Raph, meant to be like Leo with the katanas. It was like Mikey's bandana, or like that just mess up just little things like that. I'm like,
well, when you're pumping it out that quickly, you're bound to,
I found out recently that it was actually, because I just came back from Ireland, it was actually animated in Dublin.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought it was like a Japanese thing or Canadian thing or whatever, but apparently in Ireland. And there's one episode where they go to Ireland and they had to, like Ireland, if you've been to Dublin, it's very flat. Like there's nothing there, but they had to give them skyscrapers and stuff just to make it interesting.
Yeah.
Oh wow! It's not like when you talk about Ireland, you don't think animation capital. No. I mean? So I can get. Wow, that's amazing. Oh, there you go.
Must have been some sort of tax haven thing. I don't know what happened, but the 90s, the Wild West of animation.
They probably promised something like like impossible, and got all these people just drawing like crazy.
Now it's funny because I see I did see a Canadian guy recently go, oh, my uncle was a, animator on the series and he drew me this. And I'm thinking, was he in Ireland? Or maybe they did some of it. I don't know if they farmed some of it out or if they did the backgrounds there or they did what, I just don't know what the extent of it was. But I did so I was a guest at Dublin Comic Con earlier in March. That was my first international show. And one of the guys runs a thing called Pulse College. And he also run a publishing company called Lightning Strike, which is where I did my first Irish Phantom cover. And so he was like, they do animation. And so that's like, he's really just an animation nerd. Like he'll just, in a really good way, like he knows all the history of it. And I literally, like my head almost fell off when he told me that. I'm like, I thought he was, Irish people are very jovial and you never know when they're pulling your leg. So I thought, I'm like, okay, sure, it was animated in Dublin. He said, no, it was. I'm like, oh, okay. Like when he's serious, I'm like, Fair enough.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about how you landed this. You did the 100th issue of IDW. You got to do a variant on that, didn't you? Like,
Yeah.
did they approach you, or like how'd that happen?
How much time have we got? Because I've got there's a abridged version, and then there's like there's a tail end story, and it leads into how I actually got it. Have we got like a 10-minute block?
Yeah, well, I think we're about to hit the hour mark in 10 minutes.
Okay,
but
I'll keep it as short as I can. Long story short, but doubling back to where we were, 2013, I had I was at San Diego Comic-Con. I was going for the Phantom Zone because I was doing Free Comic Book Day, and part of the deal was if I could get over to San Diego, they'll sort out my tickets. So the only catch was I had to go to the retailer lunch, which is like where they kind of announce a slate for the next 6 months, 6 to 12 months. So every company from Viz Media to Marvel, DC, IDW will just, and this is purely for retailers to let them know this is what's happening in the next 12 months for them to prepare and know what they're going to order and blah, blah, blah. So all I had to do was collect the material that they were giving out, which included very rare Jim Lee variants, which I was able to keep, which was awesome. And so I was sitting at the back, literally against the back wall, sitting down on the floor, and I was sketching out a Rocketeer commission. And I saw that IDW were preparing their slideshow, and I knew that Rocketeer was their IP at the time. I think it still is. And so I'm like, okay, I might be a little, sneaky here and just make sure they can see what I'm doing and blah, blah, blah. They didn't give a crap. Like, they were busy doing their PowerPoint presentation. So I thought, okay, whatever, it's not going to happen. On my other shoulder, I get a tap, and it's this dude who I swear to God sounds like, that old cowboy guy with the mustache who always plays
what's his name? Sam something.
Yeah.
I can't get it.
He goes, oh, hey there, what you got going on there? Like it was like real gruff, and he sounded like a cowboy, and I'm like, this guy's cool. He goes, are you doing any work with us at the moment? I saw he had IDW on his lanyard. I said, no, this is just a commission. And he goes, here's my card. Come down and see us at the booth, and then we'll have a chat. And I looked at it. It was like Dirk Wood, vice president of marketing for IDW, and I'm like, he sounds like a porn star, first of all. And he actually sounds like a cowboy. But it was cool.
He approached you like someone looking for a porn star.
Pretty much like, hey there, boy. So it was cool, but I'll be honest with you, it went nowhere. They put me in touch with this junior editor, Michael. They said, email me when you get back to Sydney, we'll talk, blah, blah, blah. He forwarded the Rocketeer thing I did, and it kind of went nowhere because they weren't really, I didn't know how it worked, and they weren't actively really producing that. They were doing a lot of the artist editions and the things that were already in the can. So it kind of just died. So I thought, okay, well, I had the chance. It's nice that they noticed, and at least I'm on the right track. I'll just keep my head down, keep doing the Phantom stuff and whatever. And so I think it was 2 years later, I was back at San Diego. And same thing, I had my portfolio, and I can't remember where I was, and I literally got another tap on the shoulder, and it was like an IDW. And I'm like, these guys clearly see something, but it's just, I don't understand how this isn't working or whatever. Long story short, it didn't go anywhere. They said, your stuff's good, it's just not what we're looking for at the moment. They were doing a lot of the cartoony stuff. It was the 2012 animated series. My stuff's really gritty. It didn't really mesh. Yeah. And so they're like, keep trying, or feel free to keep sending us stuff. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I thought, they're fobbing me off, and like I just kind of left it. Anyway, I think it was like 2018 or 2019. Norm from Fats Comics up in Brisbane, who's been a friend for a while, and I always see him at the shows and everything. And I was at the Phantom booth. And can I swear on this, or should I censor myself?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, he looked, and he means this in the nicest way possible, but he looked at my stuff, and he's like, and I had all the Ninja Turtles and Batman and all the gritty stuff. He goes, what the fuck are you wasting your time with Phantom for? You should be doing Ninja Turtles. I go, well, do you want to do one? He goes, fuck yeah. I go, I've got a contact at IDW. Do you want me to see? He goes, yeah, dude. Like, so I literally got in contact with the person that Dirk guy. And it was like, he goes, yeah, cool. Email this guy Patrick at IDW. I'm like, awesome, can't wait. Blah 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 blah. Hey, dude, thanks so much. Here's the criteria and whatever you have to do, and just do the breakdown and email it back to us by the 5th of August or whatever it was. Right? I'm like, oh my god, this is it. Let's do this. So I did the breakdown, did the digital layouts, and I had it all ready to kind of go. And then I emailed it back to Patrick on the Monday. It was due on the Tuesday. And I get a form letter back going, Patrick no longer works at IDW. And I'm like, they're like, we'll forward you on to his replacement. And it was Dirk. So Dirk's like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. No worries. I'll pass you on to Bobby, who was the editor at the time. It finally got over the line. It was a lot of frustrating stuff. I did a lot of the legwork right up until it came time to sign on the dotted line, where Norm took over that and the money stuff and everything. And I feel very fortunate. I owe a lot to him. I'll show you. This is a facsimile. This is a copy, a high-res copy for my own display purposes. But I had Kevin's.
Yes.
So the original is actually there's 2 versions of it. The Copic version is in the States with a big collector over there, and then this version is with a collector in South Australia. But this is just and on the back of it I've written facsimile. Like, I don't want there to be any confusion. This is not real. This is a copy of the but that's a high res scan of my art of the cover. Because they were hard to sell. Like, I'll always sell my art, but my first published Ninja Turtles, but for the price it was fetching, and it went towards a ring and me proposing to my partner and things like that. So it's I put it to good use. It was I'm glad they went to good hands, put it that way.
But then you've also got that up your sleeve to your partner too. So did she ever give you any rubbish? You go, you do realise we're together because of Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, well,
they paid for that ring on your finger.
Dude, I mean, look, she's the coolest chick in the world. She's she collected long before I did. She collects cooler stuff than I do. She likes all that burlesque, very risque sort of stuff. And I literally teach young girls. I don't really draw that sort of stuff, and as much as it's fun to do, I try and set a good example with that stuff. So we definitely collect different things, but she's a big supporter, and she does like the Ninja Turtles to a certain extent, and she'll support my work a lot, which is I couldn't ask for any more than that.
Did you meet at a convention or something? Like, how'd you guys meet?
No, we always knew each other through the like Facebook communities and stuff like that.
Cool.
And then just over time, she was engaged before, I was engaged before.
Oh wow!
Like our timings never lined up or whatever. And then kind of in the thick of COVID, kind of ran into her. Like, she came to a show, and then it was just very fortuitous. She came out of a long-term relationship, and I was very respectful of that, and I didn't want to overstep a mark. But we ended up getting a drink on St. Patrick's Day, which ended up being our anniversary. That's kind of our unofficial. That's when we got engaged. Was the following. I'm thinking we've been together 2 years. I'm like, yeah.
Well, I'm sensing the theme here. You can thank the Turtles. You can thank the Irish. They're both green.
Mm-hmm.
So
I did the coolest thing. I did a exclusive print for Dublin Comic Con, and it was like the Turtles in front of Temple Bar and stuff. And it was just
awesome.
a cool thing. And I was a smart ass when I sent it over to them, because I photoshopped little leprechaun hats on them as a joke. I go, no.
Yes. I'm commissioning that right now. I want to see Turtles versus Leprechauns.
I think they might have done that in one of the episodes in the 87, actually.
Oh, probably. They probably ran out of ideas.
Yeah, I think it was just one of their disguises, like a Halloween thing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Do you have any questions, Ryan? Because I can keep going on and on and on.
No. I was going to say, aside from Jim Lee, obviously, who you and I share a massive fandom of, who I've got a 2-part question for you. Who is probably your favorite artist aside from Jim Lee currently? And second question is, if you ever got to do to work with a particular comic book writer, who would you like to work with?
Um, Look, at the moment, it's varied. So, writer-wise,
Mhm.
having done the conventions and being a fellow whiskey fan, Tom Taylor
Yeah.
is,
Okay.
is always at the top of the list.
Mhm.
And he worked recently with John Sommeriva on Neverlanders, and they just won young adult book of the year, which is
Oh
huge because it's
wow.
the first time a graphic novel has ever won that title. So you remember
Yeah.
those little golden stamps that used to be on the book clubs and stuff like that. So they
Yeah.
won that. Like that literally just got announced today. So I'm super proud to know them. And John's been a big, kind of mentor and stuff. Like I've been doing the shows with him quite a lot, and I seem to be sitting next to him quite a bit. It might just be a turtle adjacent thing, but got to know him a lot more. And so John locally, John is I'd say one of them.
Yeah.
Who's doing well at the moment? So there's different things. It's not necessarily informing my art, but if seeing people like Jorge Jimenez and Dan Mora, there's people that kind of injecting that kind of manga-esque kind of energy into it. Greg Capullo.
Greg Capullo's favorite. He's one of my favorites too. He's run on Batman with Scott Snyder. I absolutely love.
Dude, insane! Like that when
Yeah.
Court of Owls hit, like
Yeah.
pretty much the first. It was 50 issues, I think, up until about 35. It got a bit too cartoony for me by the end of it, but that real grittiness of like the Court of Owls and then even the Death of the Family.
Yep. Death of the Family.
Yeah. I always
Yep.
forget of Death in the Family, Death of the Family.
Yeah. Death in the Family was the original one back, and then Death of the Family
Robin,
was in the New 52. Yeah.
Yeah, when Jason Todd died. Yeah.
Yeah.
But look, man, I love Jock,
Yeah.
Alex Ross, Dustin Nguyen. Like, honestly, my list is just it's Instagram makes it like a daily, Pinterest board because you're just going and seeing some of the things that are coming out, and you're just going like, what the hell, dude? I was very fortunate to table next to Phil Noto when he was out.
Oh, nice.
And we actually did an art trade. And same thing. I'm like, I commissioned him to do my partner loves Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
She's a psychologist, and obviously Harley's a psychiatrist.
Nice.
And so I commissioned him to do a Harley, which he did this beautiful Harley, and he wouldn't take payment for it. I did a Ninja Turtle demo on stage, and he goes, "Did you want to do a trade? I really like that Leonardo." And I'm like, "Oh my god, yeah, holy shit!"
Nice.
So I was very,
Wow.
very fortunate. It's quite funny because they do these things called the sketch off, like the superstar sketch off, where they'll have like the real superstars and then like people like me filling in the whatever to get our ass kicked in front of the crowd.
Yeah.
And the first one I did was against Sommeriva and Albar Nuevo, who are both just like on my Mount Rushmore of Aussie comics.
Yeah.
And I think the crowd took pity on me because I ended up taking out that battle. Which was like, I was like, my jaw was on the floor, but cool. And then I did one against Albar Nuevo again and Phil Noto, and I took it out again. And I'm like, I'm quitting. I'm done. The luck, I think the luck of the Irish is rubbing off on me.
Oh wow!
But yeah, so look, I think that's been the biggest, I guess, highlight doing, especially the Supernova shows, is they get all these amazing international artists that I wouldn't normally have access to, and we're like, on a social level, we'll all do dinner and just kind of chat and just get to know each other on that kind of level. And it's just really nice to see that the people that are so inspiring on the page also just very down to earth as well. I haven't met anyone that I've gone like, oh, they're a douche. You know what I mean? They've all just been super nice, super down to earth. They all started out as fans too, and you can see they still do it because they love it,
Oh, look, and even as someone who's not even in the industry myself, I've been reading comics since I was able to read, and I find that as well. I actually had when Charles Soule was doing Daredevil, I actually reached out to him on Twitter and I said, "Look, I absolutely love it," and we ended up having a back and forth conversation for about, probably about an hour through DMs, and I'm like, this is a best-selling comic book writer who's written some amazing, and I was reading a lot of his indie stuff like Letter 44. and stuff like that. And the fact that he just took the time out of his day just to talk to someone who obviously enjoyed his work, it was really good. And I've had conversations with Scott Snyder as well, just brief conversation in relation to, because I'm rereading the New 52 at the moment, and Scott Snyder, that really brought him to my attention from the New 52. I went and read pretty much everything he's done. Including Witches and a lot of other stuff, which is absolutely amazing. But every time I've reached out to a comic book artist or a comic book writer, 9 times out of 10 I get a response, and it's just the fact that they're willing to have a chat and just sharing the passion. It blows my mind.
The coolest thing, when I did the San Diego the first time, I was by myself. Like, I literally just went across the other side of the world, went by myself. It's actually kind of cool because I didn't have to, if I wanted to do something, I did it, kind of thing. And I pretty much went to every Jim Lee signing. Like, I probably got about 60 things signed. I had a Wolverine and a Batman original sketch, like all these things that I was able to kind of walk away there and just going like, that was fucking awesome, Anyway, so long story short, that's that. I showed him my studio, which was basically, I surrounded myself with his kind of work. It was like the Lee Cave as a joke. And, but he retweeted that, which was cool. And like all these things are just like, that's a really nice moment. Anyway, so fast forward, I'm starting to do my, my own thing. I'm doing some more covers. I'm kind of doing, I don't think I'd even done shows by then. I think I was just doing commission work and freelance stuff. And went back to San Diego 2 years later, so 2015. So you think about that, that's 2 whole years between the two. And it was around that era when they kind of introduced Batgirl of Burnside, like leather jacket. So Babs Tarr was the artist that they discovered her off Instagram. And that interests me to no end because I'm like, I'm on Instagram. Maybe they'll discover me. You know what I mean? So I went along. She did a panel. It was with someone else as well, but it's kind of how they got into the industry. And I was very curious as to how that went and what the conversations were like that led into that. Anyway, so I went in. It was her and I'm not going to say, I can't remember who the other 2 was, but it was 3 of them. Babs Tarr was one of them. She was who I went for. And I didn't realize this, but then I think last minute it was moderated by Jim Lee. Right? Oh, wow. And it's just it was super casual. It looked like a classroom. It was literally just rows of desks, people sitting down. I was sitting front row, but off to the side. They were in the middle of the stage and they're like, guys, there's probably about 20 people in this room. If, anyone has any questions, just raise your hand. We'll kind of just do this as like conversationally as we can. And so Babs was talking about kind of what she was working on and how she was doing it and what she was hashtagging and blah, 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 blah. And I had a genuine question about that. So I put my hand up and Jim Lee goes, yeah, Jamie. I went,
he knows my name.
What? So that was cool. We follow each other on Insta. I haven't done it yet. I think I'm part procrastinating, part like psyching myself out about it. But on his Twitch channel, where he does live streams of and giveaways and auctions and whatever. One of the prizes was he would ink someone's work. And a guy that I know, he's very anonymous. I don't know who he is. I just know his handle. And his name's Pandemos on it. And he's won that many, he's won like maybe 10 things off there. So the joke is he's like, anonymous. He's like a hacker or something because he just keeps winning all the stuff. So he won. But he DM'd Jim Lee and he goes, Pandemos is gifting this to Quick Draw 13, which is me. Yeah. So Jim Lee's going to be inking one of I'm assuming it's going to be Batman. But that's why I'm just like, I have to make it the best piece of art I've ever drawn. But then I talk to people like Summer Reaver and he goes, just keep it super loose. Let him do his thing. Like, don't box yourself in, let him do him. Just put the bones down and let him run with it, kind of thing. So I don't know. I'm still tinkering with a piece, but I'll have it off to him soon.
Wow, that's going to be the centerpiece of the collection. I think that would be an honor just to have. That would be that's
the cherry on top. I can retire. I'm done. That's what else? What else do I need? Jim Lee inking me. Look, I've had Alex Sinclair color my stuff before. I actually was the reason they came out to Australia. They reached out to me and they're going, because we'd had a bit of correspondence. I did a Joker piece with Chris Daughtry, who's a buddy, and Chris is mates with Alex Sinclair. So Alex colored it for us. So that was like the kind of entryway. And then Alex had colored I think he's colored about maybe 5 or 6 of my pieces already, prints and charity pieces and whatnot. And so he reached out to me going, hey, what's your email? And I go, cool. And it basically was like, Alex and Scott's World Domination Tour. Hey, we'd love to come to Australia. If you can do some legwork, let us know who to contact. I was on the phone to Supernova straight away, and I didn't know anyone at Supernova. I'd literally been at the Fru booth each year, and even then, I think maybe before that, I'd hired one table 1 year prior to that. And then, so I didn't know who to contact. So I knew someone peripherally there, and then said, oh, this is his number, like the director's number. So I got the director's mobile number. I was really coy about it because I didn't want to put all my cards on the table. I said, hey, I've got top tier DC artists that want to come out. Are you interested? But who are we talking here? And I'm like, Scott Williams and Alex Sinclair. He's very interested. Tried to get Jim Lee out, but Jim Lee, we're going to have to do a GoFundMe to get him out here. I think he's got a first class all the way, wife and kids. It's a lot. So it's definitely, unofficially, very hard to get him out here. But when I met him in 2013, he's like, yeah, I'll be coming out next year. And that's 10 years ago. So
yeah.
It's always next year,
Yeah.
It's not like he's not a busy man, so I can kind of forgive you. Pretty much running all of DC.
Drawing, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure he can do emails on the plane.
You can draw from anywhere, right?
Yeah, pretty
much. He's only running DC Comics at the moment, but yeah, that's cool.
He's a figurehead, mate. I doubt he's doing any of the big decisions. Jim, if you're watching this, I love you.
It's I was just about to come to Australia, but then I heard Jamie said I wasn't making any big decisions, so
I was just about to ink your work, but now I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh wow.
So have you done any? Just curious, have you done any full comics? I know you do a lot of covers, but have you done a?
No, sequential work. No, the only sequential stuff I've done is the storyboarding stuff. So I just got given a 3-pager or a 4-pager for Gestalt. It's called Talgard. My mate Gary writes that, and he wrote this little, because it's just an anthology, and it's the who's who of kind of Aussie comics, and it's very kind of him to include me in that, and kind of making my sequential debut on that. So I'll be kind of working on that when my computer arrives, hopefully this week. But yeah, no, I haven't. I've thought about it. The weird thing is, right, I think Jim's much the same, where it's give me something that exists and I'll draw the shit out of it. You know what I mean? But coming up with something raw, I know that he came up with Wildcats with Brendan Choi, and that spanned its own thing, but I don't see him as a writer per se. I find it very hard. The inception of an idea is very hard, and it's very hard to do anything original. If you ever listen to the TED Talks, it's everything is a remix. Even peripherally or subconsciously, you're drawing from what you think is inspiration, but it's actually something that exists. So if you put something out, they're it's so annoying, because as an artist, you'll draw something, and you're oh, okay, yeah, that looks like just Scott Campbell. Not what I'm going for. Also, stop making it so it has nothing to do with that. That's your own filter. So yeah, I haven't drawn anything sequentially yet, but I am about to do my first.
Yeah. Awesome. No, well, me and Ryan used to play in bands, and I get the same thing with music. You write something, oh, this sounds really catchy, and then you listen to something on the radio, and you're
And that's the shit thing is, it's not intentional. It's just this subconscious thing, and something that you is pleasing to your ear will kind of get stored there. And terabytes of data in here, and you're not really going, I'm going to rip that off. You know what I mean? Yeah. Anyway, look, the 90s was pretty much the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles rip. It was Battletoads, Biker Mice from Mars, Street Shark. You know what I mean? Everything, they were throwing everything at the wall to see what stuck. So
Samurai Pizza Cats.
Yep. Oh my god.
Come on. Yeah.
The fighting crime all over town.
Yeah.
Love that.
Um,
No, so that it's I haven't done any sequential stuff, but I do want to do some creator owned. I had a buddy that I was we were developing something in the kind of superhero genre without it being superhero genre, and it ended up becoming too derivative. There were so many scenes in it that we kind of dragged our feet on it. We wrote them maybe 3 years before, and then we went and watched like The Winter Soldier, and there were certain like key scenes that we were like, oh my god, that visual is literally from that. People are gonna be like, oh, you ripped that off from. And we were just like looking at each other going, you know what I mean?
No, they ripped it off for you.
Yeah. So it was just coincidental, but we felt like we're on the right track with stuff. But it was just like didn't strike while the iron was hot. You know what I mean? You got to get in and just get it done.
Well,
definitely.
If you're ever interested in bringing my childhood to life, when I was 7, I grew up in this town called Bowen Mountain. There's population 1,500 people.
Yeah,
and I made this character called Bowen Mountain Birdman. I've still got the drawing. It was so funny because there's like no crime in my town at all. I think at the time, in my street, there was a drug dealer 2 doors up, and it was only pot. It wasn't like anything hardcore. Like that was the only crime, and they were like, I used to hang out with the kids of the dealers, and they're like, yeah, let's be heroes and stop crime, and I'm going, oh, that's ironic.
It's them. Be like, pick up that rubbish.
Well, that's the kind of idea that I had. Like, you get this high, this superhero, like this, like top, almost like Hot Fuzz. Did you ever see Hot Fuzz?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, like the super cop that goes to a small town and just finds this,
this crazy like underground cult. Yeah. By the power of Grayskull.
Yeah, that's right. There's something I've been meaning to ask you about. What's your thoughts on this whole AI art stuff? I mean, look, I'm not a fan. Like,
Look. At the end of the day, it exists. It's not something that we're gonna really be done with anytime soon, but it's definitely something that's threatening not just one industry, but like any kind of creative industry. And it's kind of been building on the backs of these creators, and then recently like Secret Wars, or was it Secret Invasion? Sorry, they used like AI to animate the the credits, the opening credits, and there was just a huge uproar about it, going like, you have 80 plus years of history, and you basically these artists, and you're just using an algorithm, so you don't have to pay anyone to do it. It's kind of, it's pretty shit if you ask me. But being able to type in a creative, whatever the description is, doesn't really make you an artist, and it's kind of insulting to really see that people claim that they're artists when they really just type words into an algorithm or into a program and churn out something that is using an amalgam of different artists' work to create this thing. So
well, I'm a part of a few author groups on Facebook and all that, because I try to write sometimes. I've got one book, but someone popped up. There's a lot of scammers in there, like, oh, I'll promote your book and I'll do it, and everyone just goes scam. But like someone's popped in, and she's like, oh, I'm an artist, look at my art, and she's trying to charge full price or whatever, and you just look at it and you go, that's AI. Like, you can just tell.
Be like, how many fingers has it got? Be like, look at my art, look at
that. And she's trying to pay like artist rates, and you're just like, you're like, no, just no.
Look, at the end of the day, you can see why people fall into that trap when there's look, at the end of the day, it looks good for a reason. It's because it can't create it from scratch. It takes imagery that exists. It takes styles that exist that have taken decades to cultivate and for people to make their own. And for someone to take that and just, take a hodgepodge of this and some Alex Ross here and some art germ there and whatever, and put it in a blender and come out and go like, look what I created. You didn't create that. It was definitely ripped off, many people's backs, and they're not seeing a dime from it. So, I think people are wise to it, and I think you'll see the more people post that stuff, there's still a lot of backlash. on it.
Yeah.
So as long as that kind of keeps up, I think it'll keep it at bay. And there'll still be people that want to create that stuff, but you've got things like well, I mean, the strikes that are happening, number one, but number two, like you know, the conventions will say like no AI artists, and you know, like even on Amazon there's been AI like fake authors where it's just been put through Chat GPT and they just put it under a pseudonym, or I've seen one where it's actually an actual author. So say it was you, say it was, you know, J.A. Bryden, and they've just done it under your name, and they've taken your book and put it through this algorithm and then written in your style and put it out as your name, and then they've gone, oh, that's my name, you can't do that, but you don't have a copyright on your name, so they're allowed to do it under that. It's there's a lot of blurred lines on it, and it's a very slippery slope. So
well, luckily I have a publisher, so they'll probably sue them for me.
Good. Very lucky.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely have to get you back on.
Thanks, guys. We'll do a little show and tell next time, because I'm just grabbing things from around my studio.
Or we can record live at your place. I'll bring my laptop.
Yeah, no, you guys. I meant it though. If you guys hit me up, we'll. It's not. Look, this studio. If you were 2 studios ago, it was like a little mini football field full of Jim Lee. Now it's like very curated with stuff that I kind of grew up around. So
awesome.
You know, it'll be a very quick tour, but there's a lot of cool stuff kind of tucked away in original art and whatnot. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, when Ryan unfreezes, we'll wrap it up.
Cool. Hey, let's all do it.
Oh, he's dropped out. Right, yeah, so thanks for coming on, Jamie Johnson. It's been a great chat. Do you just want to let us know, you know, where people can stalk you, like on the internet, not your address or anything like that. You know?
I'll leave that up to you guys. Just on Instagram is probably the best place. QuickDraw13. I'm going to be launching an apparel line with Mindless Fashion, which are a couple of Western Sydney boys as well. This is one of them. And I'll be announcing them on Instagram when they go live, which should be hopefully in the next week or so. So
awesome. And when this episode drops, will be the next couple of days.
Exactly.
We're in the future or the past. How's it work? And there will be Last Ronin shirts. Yes.
There'll be Last Ronin shirts. There'll be 1987 show, 1990 movie. There'll be some of my original stuff. It won't just be Turtles. It'll have kind of an array of like I said, I've got 10 years worth of art that I've kind of, you know, got cached. So I'm gonna be strategic about what I drop and when. But right now it'll be pretty turtle heavy, and then I'll sort of add some more to the fray. So yeah.
Awesome.
But thank you for having me, guys. It was a fun chat. Sorry, we got a bit ADHD with the tangents there, but it was
not at all. It's actually on par with all our other stuff. You know, like we go, okay, well maybe we'll talk about this, and then you know,
just leapfrog into Jim Lee territory, and we're just off.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all.
That's it. All right, guys, you know the deal. Listeners, if you want to reach out, send an email to thetrueandthefictional@gmail.com or stories_podcast on Instagram. And we'll catch you next time.
See you next time.